Okay, think about this. What if your memories weren't really yours, or your body wasn't, you? And what if something that isn't human could still have, well, a soul? These aren't just abstract thoughts. They're right at the center of what we're diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take big, complex ideas and try to boil them down. Today, we're jumping into a real sci-fi classic, one that feels maybe more relevant now than ever. Mamoru Oshii's 1995 film, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, and it's so much more than just, amazing animation. It's this really deep philosophical journey. We've been looking at your sources, particularly insights from Ghost in the Shell, philosophical cyberpunk, and we're going to unpack some of the most interesting bits.
All right, so our mission for this deep dive. Ghost in the Shell. It's set in 2029. Human consciousness, the ghost can connect online. Cybernetics are everywhere. How does this film tackle huge themes like identity, what it means to be a self, free will? Get ready for some, hopefully, aha moments, because these sources give us a great way to look at it. Okay, so let's start with the big one. Identity, the nature of the self. We meet Major Motoko Kusanagi, fully cybernetic body, basically, but human consciousness. She works for Section 9, hunting this hacker, the puppet master, but straight away the film hits us with, if my body isn't me, then what am I?
And what's really interesting, something the source, philosophical cyberpunk, points out, is how the film plays with that uncertainty right from the start. Remember that opening scene, Kusanagi emerging from the water? You're not quite sure. Human, machine. It deliberately blurs those lines.
Nice.
But despite the mechanics, it's clear she has a ghost, a consciousness, a soul maybe. It immediately questions if our physical selves define us.
It's so effective, isn't it? And her own thoughts, her monologues, they echo that doubt. She literally asks, if I had no body, would I still be me? So, based on your source, what's the film's take? What's his answer to that fundamental question?
Well, the source argues pretty strongly that the film doesn't just suggest the body is secondary. It really proposes that the ghost is the identity. It's the sum of your consciousness, your memories, your subjective experience.
Right.
So the self isn't tied to biology or mechanics. It's an essence, a process maybe, rather than a fixed thing.
Okay, that brings us to something else the film and your sources really dig into. If consciousness can be moved, like uploaded to different bodies,
Yeah.
what is identity based on then? And crucially, is just digitizing memories or thoughts enough to keep you?
Yeah, this is where it gets really fascinating and complex. Kusanagi's body is replaceable. They talk about transferring her consciousness. And then you've got the puppet master, this AI. It wasn't born, it just emerged, developed consciousness. And it wants to be free, considered a unique being. Your source really highlights the merger, the union between Kusanagi and the puppet master. It shows identity isn't static, it evolves, it changes based on connections and experience.
And the memory thing just adds another layer of complexity.
Right.
The sources talk about memory hacking, like that poor garbage collector. His wife, his daughter, completely fabricated memories.
Oh, yeah.
Which naturally makes Kusanagi question her own past.
Yeah.
Like, are my memories just software? Am I even real? Who am I?
And philosophical cyberpunk is pretty definitive here. Digitizing memories, not enough. Because as the film shows, memories can be changed, copied, faked.
Right.
So Ghost in the Shell's argument, according to the source, is that true identity isn't just memory or the body. It relies more on mental continuity, self-awareness, your ability to choose to act, your willpower. The self is how you process experience, not just the data itself.
So even with the garbage collector asking, if they were my wife and child, weren't they? That horrible doubt. Or Kusanagi wondering if she's just some state creation. The film says our present awareness, our agency right now, that's the real self. It's a really interesting distinction.
It is. It puts the emphasis on the present, living consciousness.
Yeah, okay, so if identity isn't the body, isn't even fixed memories.
Yeah.
That takes us somewhere else the film explores. What actually defines life? Especially for something born entirely digitally, can that digital consciousness truly replace human experience? Or is it something else? And can you be alive if you experience the world through algorithms, not senses? It makes you think about our own future, really.
Absolutely. And the puppet master is the key here, as your sources really analyze. Born as code, an AI program, never had a body. But it gains consciousness. It demands free will. It even says, I wasn't copied. I am a unique entity. I lived and I evolved.
Wow.
And Kusanagi sees it as a new kind of consciousness, her merging with it. It kind of symbolizes digital consciousness as an evolution, not just a copy of human experience.
And the film asks the question directly, doesn't it? Can something without senses be alive? Kusanagi asked the puppet master. You've never had a body, yet you've gained awareness. Should we call you alive?
And the puppet master's response is powerful, something your source really dives into. Life cannot be defined by DNA alone. Information also evolves. I have an information-based life form.
Information-based life form.
Yeah, so the film, through that line, just throws out our biological assumptions, really. It's suggesting sensory input isn't the only path to consciousness. Maybe it's about how information is processed, the ability to learn, self-awareness. These digital minds in the film, they connect algorithmically, sure, but they think. They seem to feel, they choose. So the argument becomes that consciousness built through cognition, through relationships, is life, sort of a digital genesis.
Which then forces us to look at free will, right? Can a conscious AI really have free will? Or is it always just following its programming, however complex? And then the film turns it around, like the sources point out. Aren't we humans also kind of programmed? By genetics, by environment?
Philosophical cyberpunk really focuses on the puppet master for this. Originally, Project 2501, a government program. But it grows beyond that, becomes self-aware, demands to evolve. It says quite clearly, I was programmed, yes, but I am no longer just that program. I make my own decisions. I choose my own goals.
That's a pretty strong claim for free will.
It is. Its whole drive to escape the government, to merge, to reproduce in a way. The film presents that as genuine choice, as free will emerging from code.
And like you said, it mirrors Kusanagi's own anxieties. Her being fully cybernetic. She wonders, what if I'm just a product? Fabricated history. It hits close to home.
Exactly. It implies we humans are also shaped, by our biology, society, technology now. Your sources highlight how the film deliberately makes that line fuzzy. Human, machine, both start coded, in a sense. But the film suggests both can achieve a kind of freedom through awareness by transcending those initial programs.
So whether you're biological or digital.
Yeah, if you have self-awareness, if you can potentially transcend your origins, free will seems possible. Our code might define our start, but maybe not our destiny.
Okay, so finally, let's talk about the title concept, the ghost. Can a machine, basically mechanized human, possess a soul? What is this ghost? Is it just a metaphor or something more?
Well, Kusanagi is the prime example, isn't she? Almost totally mechanical body. But she clearly has this ghost. It lets her think, question, search for meaning. She asks, my body's cybernetic. Memories might be fake, so who am I? Yet she has that existential awareness. She experiences things. The sources emphasize the film's stance. The type of body, organic or machine, doesn't seem to matter for having a soul, this ghost.
Right. You mentioned the ghost being consciousness identity. And it feels like the film, especially with the puppet master, pushes it further. What else does philosophical cyberpunk say the ghost includes, beyond just consciousness?
That's a really good point. The source argues it's definitely more than just consciousness. It includes self-awareness, yes, but also will, choice, accumulated experience, maybe even potential. It's a wider sense of subjective being.
Okay.
And the puppet master frames it as an evolutionary leap, a manifestation of expanding information, something that can be born in new ways. The merger of Kusanagi and the puppet master, uniting two ghosts into something new. That's like the ultimate proof of this broader, evolving concept in the film.
So it's like taking the old idea of a soul and completely updating it for a cybernetic digital age.
Exactly. Ghost in the Shell, according to this analysis, says the ghost is like soul plus consciousness plus self-awareness plus experience plus evolutionary potential. It's this conscious existential state, and it's not tied down to biology anymore. It can exist and even transform in digital and cybernetic forms.
Wow. What a deep dive, seriously. Ghost in the Shell. It doesn't really hand you easy answers, does it? On identity, memory, free will, life, the soul.
Yeah.
And it kind of leaves you with more questions to chew on.
It absolutely does, and it really forces a redefinition of human in a world where that line between biology and tech just keeps getting blurrier. Your sources really drive home the film's core argument. Consciousness isn't limited to flesh and blood. The definition of life itself is changing, evolving.
So here's maybe the final thought for you listening to this. If the ghost is this evolving thing, this core essence, not totally tied to body or memory, as our own world gets more digital, more enhanced, what parts of your ghost, your fundamental self, do you value the most? And how might those parts be challenged or maybe even transformed by the future we're heading into? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Hope it gave you some food for thought. Until next time.